Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another photo Mish Mash. This one being broadcast live July 21st, 2021. I think there's something special in the numbers there. I mean, it's the 7th month. We've got the 21st year, 21st day. Somebody smarter than I could probably put that all together in some interesting, way. Maybe. But that's not what the show's about. We're not about numbers. We're not about Jeff Bezos going to space. Although we might talk about the fact that today I learned that he is building, along with some crazy mad scientist, a clock that is going to be accurate for the next 10,000 years. How is today the first that I'm hearing about this?
Finally, somebody's doing that because it's just been such a problem.
Yes, I know.
Ever since we've been keeping time with watches and stuff.
I've been so worried that in 5,000 years that I just won't know what time it is.
Exactly.
I've been really,
it's been keeping me up at night. Saved us during Y2K.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
Very, very good point. Yes, but I don't think we're really going to talk about that all either. We've got actual practical stuff to talk about. We have tips. All of us sitting here are photographers that have been on vacations this summer. And I think we're going to share some tips. We're going to share some tips and tricks about taking better vacation photos that hopefully you can implement if you haven't taken one yet, or next summer, or these tips could even apply to the winter, although one of mine really is summer specific. But we'll get to that. Plus, we got to review your photos. We've got lots to do. I've got gear on the table I want to talk about. It's been a long time. We have to talk a little bit about trips that we've been on. David Carr, I know you had a fantastic South Dakota trip.
Yes,
I spent a little time in Alaska, and that's stuff that we want to share. So I'm very happy and excited to welcome back to today two regular co-hosts and guests. Tonya, we'll start with you. Tonya, how are you doing?
I'm all right. I had a really good photo shoot this morning, so I was excited.
Awesome. Good.
Awesome. For anybody watching who hasn't joined in a while, or maybe it's been so long that you've forgotten who these people are, Tonya is a professional photographer, portrait, family, babies, high school seniors. What else would you say that you do, Tonya, there in the Eastern Pennsylvania region?
Well, I also do real estate and some commercial work, but I don't advertise that the same way as my portraiture.
Nice. So. Nice. Very good. And as you can see there, TonyaWilhelm.artist is your best Instagram to go see. And from there, you can access your other Instagrams where you have beautiful macro work, which I'm just mentioning now. And you've done a very nice tutorial for the pen crowd that is coming out, I think, tomorrow, or maybe it came out this morning, on Photoshop blending modes. And I love that macro image you use as an example, but then you explain those blending modes so nicely and clearly. So pen members, be on the lookout for that if it hasn't already landed in your inboxes.
I'm looking forward to that because I don't even know what a blending mode is. So
that really surprises me. But then you guys always teach me things in Lightroom because I barely use Lightroom, and I just take everything into Photoshop, and that's where I do all my heavy lifting. So
iron sharpening iron here.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that's David Carr. David Carr is a professional photographer in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And David, how are you doing?
I'm good. I did go on a vacation recently with my family, and and I've been shooting a pretty good bit. So I've been busy. I'm always staying busy doing something, whether it's with the camera or a chicken coop or whatever else I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's right. I saw you can go check out what David Carr was up to earlier today. If you go follow him at David Carr Photo on Instagram, it might have involved building a new chicken run.
Yes.
Looks good.
I have to almost apologize for my Instagram feed and well, not my feed. My feed is very much photography, but my stories are kind of all over the map. I mean, sometimes it's photography stuff. Sometimes it's me eating Lucky Charms, which that's been a frequent occurrence on my Instagram stories. Sometimes it's building a chicken coop. Sometimes it's working on the car. I don't know. I'm like, this is just who I am. Take it or leave it. But yeah, our chickens, we have 6 chickens, and they're making an absolute mess of our backyard. There's just mulch everywhere and poop everywhere, and it's just a mess. And so I'm building them their own little section that's theirs. They can do whatever they want to with, but leave the rest of my backyard alone. So that's what this is about.
Sounds good. Sounds like a good plan. 6 chickens, I think, is a nice. It's a nice number. How many eggs are you getting a day from 6 chickens?
You know, anywhere from like 3 to 4, typically. It kind of varies throughout the seasons. And then We actually had 12 chickens at one point. So the hawks tend to love them, and so that's been causing the decline in numbers. But it's been a little while now, so
I can solve this problem.
Yeah.
You upgrade to an emu, and then egg
upgrade
feeds 10. Hawks don't bother that, and nobody breaks into your house.
That's true. All right, maybe I'll
I
start.
have wanted an emu for a long time. Nobody wants to give me one.
I can't imagine why.
The borough that I live in frowns upon it, it seems. So.
Yeah. It's hard enough getting chickens in your neighborhood. Emus might be a different thing. So, yeah. But anyway, all that to say, that's what I've been up to.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you need to apologize for stories at all. Stories are whatever you want. That's why I was kind of excited when stories arrived because, it's just a fun way to share what you're up to, and people can watch or not.
I think
watch
so.
if they want.
Yeah. I keep my feed pretty much focused on the photography stuff. And even that gets a little convoluted because sometimes it's landscape stuff from a McKay trip, and then it's a portrait, or then it's a wedding shot, and then it's another wildlife shot. So it's kind of all over the map, but it is what it is. That's just who I am. So
yeah,
I do. That's why I run 3 Instagrams. But like my portrait Instagram, I usually keep my stories only business based, and then my artist one, you get all the hot mess of everything I do. So.
That's cool. I think it's a good plan.
And Tonya, I haven't noticed. I mean, I think it is definitely a way to kind of keep a nicer curated feed when you're doing a bunch of different things. It's something to consider. Downside is it's more places to update. But do you regularly post stories to all of those different Instagrams? I'm curious.
I neglect my macro one the most, but I do. I use my stories to cross market the 3. In case I have people who don't know about them. And my portrait photography one, I really keep like behind the scenes or just absolutely Wilhelm photography studio related. Okay. And then my artist one is much more personal. In fact, I'm probably more open there than on Facebook. I'm not very super personal on social media.
Sure.
I try, but
comes and goes.
Yeah.
It has there's flaws.
There's some right. Well, there's some serious pros and cons to that. And I mean, that's an important thing to remember. It's your space. You do what you want with it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, chat room, I haven't said hi to you all. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know some of you, this time of day doesn't work perfectly. I hear that, but this is the best time. This is the compromise time. This is like, a marriage. We're just all compromising here, and maybe none of us are super happy. But sorry, I don't mean that. But it works. It works enough. So, chat room, thanks so much for joining us. A couple of things I want to ask you right off the bat. I'd love to know if you have more than one Instagram. And do you use stories? So just type in there the number you have of Instagram accounts and whether or not you use stories. And let's do a special shout out to Steve Pressman, who lets everybody know he's at work, but he is the boss. So he can't really, you could fire yourself, Steve, but I don't think you're going to do that. So Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good to have you, Steve.
That's right. And a special shout out to Roy and a belated birthday. It was his birthday on the 15th. We didn't have a show last week because of travel. That would have been a little bit closer to your actual birthday. But happy birthday, Roy. Thanks for everything you do behind the scenes. So, yeah. Okay. All right. Let me share a couple of things. While the chat room is sharing whether or not they have more than one Instagram account, whether or not they use stories, I want to share a couple of items on the table that have arrived for testing that I'm interested in. Although, first is this, the world's first versatile magnetic VND, versatile magnetic, a variable neutral density filter. It arrived in this cool little case. I'm always looking for a filter system that is a little bit smaller, a little bit more compact. I'm a big fan of the Nissi system, but it's not the most compact.
Right.
This system, and then the case opens up in this cool little Muppet way. I like that. You get first the base, and you put that on your lens. Obviously, I've got the 82 millimeter size, so I'm using a step up ring, and then you put in the variable neutral density base plate, all magnetic with a nice little satisfying snap in if you put it in the right spot. Here, let's turn it so it's easier to do. And then let's say you say, today I want to try out my 2 to 5 stop. You just click that on there. And actually, there's a special way to line it up. Oh, I'm sorry. You can't see it when I did it like that.
Yeah, I was
just going to tell you.
Thank you. I catch on slowly. So it's just this nice little magnetic system. There's a special way to line it up, but then as you tilt it or twist it, it changes from 2 to 5 stops.
Oh,
or you
cool.
say, hey, I need a lot of darkening. Try out the 6 to 9 stop. Now, really, I think this is most exciting to filmmakers because filmmakers are trying to keep that shutter speed at 2 times their frame rate. That is what's supposed to give you the most pleasing looking video. But this could also certainly be used by photographers, and you can flip it around to the other side, and now it's a CPL filter, circular polarizer, and it clicks on.
No way.
Or an extra dark CPL filter. So there's a lot that comes in this kit. That's all the good news. The downside is I'm not exactly sure because the whole base spins. And so you have to hold it in a kind of an awkward way to get it actually to adjust the strength of the neutral density filter. That's one issue. The second issue is right now they're only selling this on Indiegogo, which I really don't like. I just, Indiegogo has enough kind of products on there that just never actually show up. Basically scams. We looked at, I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I talked about one of these little docks for Macs and MacBooks, and there was somebody advertising one that was this size, but also had SSD in it. And then when I did a little research, there were people all over the internet complaining that it had been up there forever. It was constantly like being reset. It would be like 15 days until we start shipping. 15 days until we start shipping. Make sure you take advantage of this special offer and this. So that's one issue. But I will say the company Freewell is a good name. They have a lot of different filters for drones, for other cameras, action cameras, a lot of things like that. So they do have, they're not some, unknown, but I wish they weren't just selling this right now on Indiegogo.
Yeah.
But it's something to look for.
Yeah. Well, I got to say the sound of those filters just sticking together, that is like ASMR for me. That just sounded so nice. Just
very satisfying.
Just had a very...
Let me do it right by the microphone for you, David.
Oh my gosh. It gives me chills.
Yeah. Oh, we lost Tonya. Hopefully she'll be back in just a second. I don't know if StreamYard is having issues. I got booted off earlier also. So I'm not sure if it's a StreamYard issue or otherwise, but that might happen. So let's bring Tonya back.
There she is. Oh, we just did like a Brady Bunch thing though. We swap.
If everybody's worried about that, I can switch back. There we go.
There we go. Now I can look at
you're ready for that, Carr.
Hey guys.
Okay. Now another product that I want to talk about real quick that's on the table. This is exciting. I need to do a full video about it. It's large and kind of excuse me stuff.
Oh my goodness.
So this is a DNP company printer. This uses dye sublimation. And what that means is that you get very fast, good looking prints. And this printer, sorry, that's a little loud.
All right. It's all right.
Here's a beach family vacation print. 19 seconds for this sucker to print out.
Amazing.
Which is quite fast. And this thing, they really love event photographers, photo booth photographers, people who want to have prints the instant they've taken them or just a few moments after. That's really who this is marketed to. You get a roll of the dye sub kind of ink and you get a roll of the paper. They're both quite affordable. And then you throw them in this printer, hook it up, and you're ready to print very, very quickly. I'm impressed with it.
That's cool.
They sell it. This one will print up to a maximum 4x6, which is not very big. But if you're doing photo booth prints, totally fine. They sell one that does do larger, 8x10. It's sitting in a big box right over there that I have to unbox, but I'm excited to test it out. Quality-wise, it looks excellent. It's it's not going to be the same as sending off to Bay Photo, but again, it's going to be a very nice print, and the immediacy of being able to sell and make money on print sales for sports photographers shooting teams or other events, that could be huge.
Yeah, that's what I use. I use a dye sub printer for my Santa photos every year at this company that I do. I do 4 days, sometimes 5 days of Santa photos, like all day. And we just, they part of the deal was that we're going to offer them prints right there on the spot. So I didn't know how to do that 3 years ago when I started and bought a Mitsubishi dye sub printer. But it's every year that I set it up, I'm like, this is the year it's not going to work because the software is probably not going to mesh with whatever the latest update on my Mac is. But it's always worked, and it's amazing how quick and good the prints really are. It's pretty incredible. So, but I'm excited about that one. I might have to look into that.
I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Plus, also hope we'll get a full review out. I wanted to ask if you'd ever used one, and so you've got one, and for that kind of immediate print needs, it's been working well for you.
It works amazingly, and I just order more paper every year just so I know that I have enough. Haven't had any real issues with it. The prints do look great, and you get a lot out of it. I don't know what these rolls are like, but you get a lot out of one roll. I can't remember what it is, but I always end up with plenty left over, and people love being able to get those prints right away. But I'm curious what the retail price is on this one. Do you know yet?
Yes, it's out. It's $430 for the printer, and I have linked it right down below this video. But I'll share the screen real quick.
That's great.
So that we're doing that. There it is. It's $430. You do need to buy the media separately, and so here is 4x6 prints. $44 gets you 2 rolls and 2 of the dye sub rolls. I'm not sure what else to call those.
Yeah.
So that's a total of 300 prints. So 300 prints for $44. That's, what is that? 300 divided by 44 equals, no, is that the way I want to do it? I want to do it the other way. 44 divided by 300 equals 15 cents a print.
That's great. That's all of that is less than what I spend, and sounds like modern and probably going to be more reliable. So I'm intrigued, Toby.
Yeah, definitely.
I have not used a dye sublimation printer since my college days when I worked in a photo lab, and it was not fast. It would run each color individually.
Oh yeah.
And layer them, so it would print magenta and suck it back in, and then print cyan, and so it wasn't quick.
It does that, but it does it quickly.
It does. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it's just neat how it just kind of cuts it, because it's a roll and it just cuts it and spits it out. I was impressed.
Fantastic.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And we've talked about the kind of a similar idea is the tiny little Bluetooth printers that you can take with you as you travel. It's not really dye sub. That's more of that zero ink technology where the paper itself is, has the chemicals in it to produce the picture or to create the print. And that's actually something that is fun, I think, to take on summer vacations.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Those, because especially the littler kids can then immediately see a physical copy of the print.
Yeah. Well, and not to keep harping on the print subject, but I'm very interested. I just saw that Epson is releasing a new printer. They've come up with this new technology in the last couple of years with these ink wells. Instead of using cartridges, you actually fill up these tanks with ink. And I've got a printer at the house. It's just like an office printer, but I bought it well over 2 years ago, and we are still on the black ink that was in the tank when I bought it 2 years ago. It's lasted that long, and there's still almost half left. And so they have a photo printer now coming out any day now that it's 8 colors, and it's, from everything I've read so far, it's going to be fantastic. And think about that, and at 13 by 19 too, so printing pretty large format.
That's great.
I'm excited to see what this is. It's already back ordered, and but I need a new printer. I don't print a ton, but I do like having that ability. But I hate buying these super expensive ink cartridges, and they're always running out on me on my Canon. So
I also need a printer, and I bought one last week. The guy didn't have any printer at all.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, I need to be able to print just like my contracts and things like that. And went to Walmart. This should tell you where this is going. And I bought a cheap HP printer because I legit only need black and white from this thing. And I think that it's new and up to date. It's not compatible with my computer. Like, I was on the phone with tech support for like 2 hours. It's supposed to be a smart connect and doesn't. I have to take it back.
Oh no.
Like, I guess because I have updated my Mac recently, that their app has not been prepared for the update. So
printing is such a pain.
It is.
I've got a brother printer that is just a laser printer because, Tonya, similar to you, for contracts and getting stuff, it's one of those all-in-one where I scan to. I think it might even be able to fax, though. I don't think I've ever used that. I've been very happy with it. I've had it for about 4 or 5 years. I think I just replaced the laser cartridge this year for the first time. But lately, every time it goes to sleep, the network interface unit just goes hard to sleep. And to print it, I have to turn it off and back on and quick print to it before it goes back to sleep, where then all of my machines don't see it anymore. So that's been kind of a bummer, but
so yeah, you're right. It is always something.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, maybe I shouldn't get a wireless one. I'll just get one with a cord because I don't want to have to deal with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. It's wireless is nice though. It's supposed to be the future, but then it just works so crappy.
And then as soon as school starts, my kids are going to want to print things. And so then a cord will be a pain. And so, yeah, I'm not happy about printers right now.
Yeah. I'm not really either, but I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, it is exciting. Roy's asking if it'll split 2x6. So similar to, photo booth. They do sell a roll that is perforated. And so you can get little photo booth style prints out of it as well, if you like.
That's cool. Good.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I think that's it. As I mentioned, if you want to know more about these filters, they are on Indiegogo. I linked to that. I really would just say, though, if they're interesting to you, just wait until they start selling them on the actual Freewell website themselves. I've also linked to this printer, and from there you can find the bigger one as well. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I came back from the Katmai workshop. It was wonderful. We had such a good time. We are running another trip in 2022 that I'll be leading. And it's just really interesting to see bear behavior at different times of the year. In September, the 2022 trip is a September trip. That will be back to the kind of classic bears in the stream, bears on the waterfalls, catching the salmon. And we're not going to Brooks Falls, which is the popular place because you have to fly into there. We take our little boat and we hike upstream to these different gorgeous little locations. And most of the time, you and your small group are the only people out there. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me. But it is a very, very cool trip. If you haven't been following me on Instagram, I've been sharing, some of my favorite photos of wildlife that I've pretty much ever captured. I captured on this trip.
They're amazing, Toby. I mean, literally just like, I'm kind of mad. I'm like, it shouldn't be this good. No, I'm really, really excited for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Some of those are just so great. And that trip just looked incredible. So
it was a very, very cool trip. And, the truth is everybody on the trip got these pictures. All of them just happened with enough time, with all of us just being there to see these moments.
Yeah.
And capture the stuff. And so it just was great. It was
fantastic.
Really, yeah. So, all right. Let's move into part of the show that's a lot of fun. You guys have sent pictures in. Now the show, as I said, has been on a little bit of break, but you have kept sending pictures in. So we've got a few to get through. By a few, I mean quite a few. We are going to try to keep this part of the show a little bit more reasonable in length. I always say that. We always really enjoy this. We really value giving you feedback. If you're watching this and you're not a PEN member, you should become a PEN member, just $24 a year. You get access to incredible amounts of educational content, plus the ability to send pictures in for this review session. And I think that is a great way to grow as a photographer.
Absolutely.
So let's go right here.
All right.
Kevin Walk, haven't we actually done this? Haven't we done this shot?
We've done one similar where the animal was behind a tree, but
okay, got it. Yep,
I don't know, but maybe
there's another pen member that has a similar shot as well, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why it looks familiar, but I think that the snow comes more to the eye line.
Oh, yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, maybe that's Carrie's shot.
I think it is.
All right. Yeah. So this is the Lynx. This is working with animals in Montana, and this is a great shot.
Yeah.
I love the sharp focus. I love this kind of playful, right down on eye level perspective. It's very nice.
Yeah.
Things that catch my eye, and I'll be honest, I'm not quite sure how to suggest dealing with it. Tonya or David, we have just little bits of either hair or snow back here that catch the light, and they have a little bit of a funky pattern to them. They're out of focus, but they still have,
I see what you're saying.
gosh, almost like a snowflake pattern to these little balls of bouquet.
Yeah, I see that. It didn't catch my eye at first. It's a pretty striking photo because it's such a cool animal in the moment and seeing the eyes. But I do see what you're saying. I'm wondering if I would probably first and foremost just crop in closer, just get in really close. I wouldn't want to lose the tips of the ears because that's such a feature, but I would definitely. I just think there's not much more to see. There's not much more you want to see. So
Fill the frame with the subject.
Yeah, just fill it up because everything else is just superfluous at that point. And that also, what that just did is it takes it a little off center, which I like. And then I would probably just rotate it a little bit to the right, almost to where it looks like the horizon is level-ish. It's just something I would do. Yeah, I just think. But as far as that other stuff, I mean, you could kind of paint over it with a basically unsharpen it. That might kind of take away some of that. Doesn't bother me too much.
Yeah, it's not too big a deal. Yeah,
but it is interesting. It's a weird pattern. I see that.
It is.
So
yeah.
you could also take that into Photoshop, and you could use the clone stamp on the darken blending mode. And that's going to retain some of the texture, but just darken the bright areas so that you'll lose that weird pattern. I'd also want to kind of get rid of that white spot on the lower lip, I think.
Yeah, I was looking at that.
Yeah. And you might be able to clone from the other side to kind of finish that. Oh, you know what I think it is? It's a tooth. I think it's a tooth.
Oh, really? Well,
so.
The problem is that if it's in question, if it's a competition image, and I do think he mentioned this maybe being competition, if it's in question, you want to get rid of it.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, there are times when something is real and it's what was there, but if it looks, I said this recently, if it looks like a dust spot, people are going to think it's a dust spot. And in this case, it looks like out of focus snow. It's what people are going to think it is. So
yeah, I agree. Cool. Great feedback. Thanks, everybody. We're going to move on. Jeremy Lavender has this senior portrait.
Wow. Ooh. Jeremy.
I know.
That's cool.
This is pretty cool. Yeah. It's so Alaskan too. I love that she's got the tough boots, the extra tough boots. That's great. I'm going to defer to both of you being fairly regular portrait and senior portrait photographers for some feedback here.
Go for it, Tonya.
Okay, so I think I would crop in just a smidge. Locations are so hard, good locations with portraiture, because we don't want to lose the location, but it's not about the location. And I like that a little bit better. I'd also kind of get rid of that one stick.
Yep.
Maybe there are two, but I like that crop a lot better.
I do too.
And then I love the light. The separation is so good, Jeremy. So especially with a waterfall, man, that's hard. Good job.
It's really well lit.
I'm just, you got that one. Good work.
Yeah, I mean, other than just, I mean, I agreed wholeheartedly about cropping in, because there's a certain point where the background, it gives you enough context. You don't necessarily need more of it. And then, cleaning up the stick, and then just kind of looking around on the rocks. There might be a few other little white spots here and there that, it's just, they're not like going to ruin the image, but it's always nice to just clean up anything that's like kind of you just see some little white spots here and there that, they're just highlights that they don't really serve the photo, and they could be semi-distracting, and they can almost make it look a little, almost like as if it was film and it had dirt on it or something. It's one of those, you just don't know what it is, so you might as well just get rid of it. So,
yeah,
lovely shot.
Nice. One question for I'll ask you, Tonya. Her skin tones up top are a little bit warmer than the leg, and that is maybe natural, maybe partly light.
I think maybe a little mix of both. And actually, as I was looking at this, I thought, man, I would have to go in and match up and retouch that leg, just because
warm it up just a little.
Girl legs are important, and they need retouched as well as the rest of the body. So for a senior portrait, I absolutely would retouch that, and I'd warm it up a little, and just maybe I'd probably do a little bit of light painting just to kind of get the same contouring as we have the light on the arms. Yeah, that's an easy pick.
Cool. Nice work, Jeremy. Really nice. All right, we're moving on. Steve's got 2. So we're going to do 2 very quickly. Here's the raw straight out of camera. And he did a little editing, Steve, which is good. He doesn't usually. And here we are. This, I'm pretty sure I know where, especially since I did get to see the other picture too. This is Mammoth Hot Springs in Yellowstone National Park. But I think if you didn't know that, you might think that this was like a macro of a s'more fresh out of a campfire.
Yeah, maybe so.
I don't know.
In the midday.
Before and after, one more time.
Minor changes. So a little straightening.
Little contrast, maybe. Okay.
A little more contrast. Yeah. You mentioned it, David. This was taken obviously right about midday. Pretty harsh light. That's given us some shine in some locations. I think this is an interesting, almost abstract style print. We get a little bit of sense of where we are because we have a cloud in that blue sky, and we have a little bit of steam coming over here from the hot water. But otherwise, I think a lot of people would really puzzle over this for a little while, and so it's a little bit more abstract.
Well, I think I would love to see this in black and white, just because. So here's a photo where there's not a direct subject. I mean, the subject is this cool sort of limestone, whatever this is. I don't even know what this is, but the subject is kind of the whole thing. It's not like within this rectangle, there's one thing that you're trying to draw the attention to. So in that case, you almost have to treat it like an abstract, where it's kind of all over the place. And it is. I mean, there's cool textures all throughout, but without there being a real focal point, to me, just kind of making it, thinking of it as wall art, not thinking of it so much as like an epic landscape that is showing a specific location that everybody's going to know of. It's more just like, here's this cool feature in nature, and I just wanted to show all these textures and lines and shadows and highlights. Yeah, and actually that's really cool, just making this cropped version of it. You don't really need this guy because it doesn't otherwise, without sounding harsh, I feel like it looks like a snapshot of the structure. So you have to take that and turn it into something really artistic, and I think that's kind of what you've done here is by making it black and white and maybe playing with the clarity and the texture a little bit more. I don't know. I feel like you can really accentuate the textures within the rock.
Yeah, I think so. Tonya, I don't know if you have anything to add, but we're going to move on to this other shot real quick, because I think this has some neat potential in it, that we have this different view, very similar, very close to the first, but now we have this sense of whatever this crazy material is. David, I think you're exactly right. It's kind of this like limestone deposits, have just eaten a tree. And that,
this is cool.
I think, then starts to tell a really cool story.
Yes. This is cool. This is really cool.
This is cool. So I'm just going to come in. You got an extra little tree up here in the corner. That I don't think that we don't need that. You got another one poking in down here. You could clone it out, or we could just crop in. Although the shadow seems like it ends right there, so I'm a little hesitant. But I'm just going to go ahead and chop that off, and get somewhere in here. What do you think?
Yeah.
I like that crop.
You know what's cool is it looks like a black and white photo on the bottom right and over. I mean, basically diagonally, and then a color photo on the other half. But it's natural, so it's just this cool, like, what in the world is going on here kind of thing. Yeah.
I think that's a cool story. Cool. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah,
nice shots. Nice. All right, let's go. Becky Miller was on that South Dakota tour with you, and oh, cool.
I remember when they were doing this. That turned out really cool. I think I was like on Instagram or something when this was happening. So.
What if this was a panoramic? Like, we didn't have so much at the bottom. I don't know if we'll lose too much of our hands, but
yeah, I know where you're going with it.
Can we come up and down a little bit more? I'm reluctant to come up too much more because we start to lose the hands there.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really nice improvement because we're really tight in. Really, there's no way you're going to miss this little fluff seeds flying off.
Yeah, right. That's actually really cool.
It is. Nicely done, Becky.
There's so much motion and they're so sharp. Like, she isolated that whole plane of seeds flying, which is fantastic.
That's not easy to do always. So very nice job.
Yep. 1 over 1,250th of a second. Yep. So little things that I'm noticing. One right here, this darker stump stands out. It's different than most of the other spots. And right here, it's a bummer that it's just about to intersect this guy, but this also is a different color. Everything else I think is very nice. We got these kind of repetition of the trees in the background. They're all the same color, kind of all the same brightness, same out of focus, all great. And then of course the green, but that stands out right there.
If it was a black and white, would those wisps be even more isolated?
I kind of feel like they are. And let's see. And if we brought whites up even a little bit more, not too much, we could paint
the gray down.
Yeah.
What? Sorry, what'd you suggest, Tonya?
Maybe if we bring some of the gray tones in the background down, so that there's even more contrast. I like.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
I was just wondering how much we could get those to pop.
Yeah, because it's like you really want those to be the feature, and they get a little lost otherwise.
But I like both. I just wanted to say.
Yeah, it's probably one of those things you could do some serious playing around with these in Photoshop and brightening them up a little bit, and I mean, there's a lot of ways you could really perfect that image.
And I really like the fingers, but if we did crop the grass out, you really have just that dark area. So that's just another option. But
do you mean come in and just have
I'm going to keep the plant.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, if you keep them all in the tree line, we get rid of all the distraction. I love it when fingers are good in a shot, and they are in that. So it's hard for me to crop them out.
Yeah, that was, and I believe that's Garner. I think that's Garner Knutson's hands, because I remember I tried. These were like these crazy is that dandelion? Daffodils? What are they?
Dandelions. Yeah.
Dandelions. Yeah. And I was trying to blow them, and they wouldn't move. And he had the breath of God or something. And so I was like, good job, man. So they were everywhere though.
That's cool. That's cool. I love seeing kind of fun, creative shots like this, especially come out of the workshops where you know you didn't go to this location for this. David McKay wasn't like, "Hey, let's go over here with these crazy big dandelions."
Right.
But,
Well, this was on the off-roading excursion too. This was like
neat.
It was kind of cool because you could not get to where we are here without being in some sort of crazy 4-wheel drive knobby tire kind of vehicle. So little context there.
Very cool. Nice job, Becky. All right, we're gonna move on. Sue Stevenson has a Golden Gate Bridge shot. Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a perspective I haven't seen of the Golden Gate very much. There's a lot of that one shot from the, I guess, north end of the bridge that people get a lot.
Right.
Of it.
That's right. Back towards. Yeah.
But this is cool.
Mm-hmm. What I'm a little torn here because there's a nice rule of thirds happening here. You can see when I turn that on, the grid on, that we've kind of have the bridge is dominating that upper right third, and we have this nice leading line of our water leading right up to it. But I wonder if we make another panorama, where do we end up? Do we lose too much? We still have this now leading us to the bridge.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at the pano thing too. Well, first of all, I would straighten it up a little bit. It seems like the water line's a little slanted. So
good call. Yeah.
I think I've said this before, but like for everybody like watching right now, cropping and straightening are so important as one of the first things you take a look at. I mean, you don't have to commit to the crop, but you really want to figure out what the rectangle is and where things are in it. And so, and it's always kind of like hit or miss. You don't know. You don't until you start playing around with that. But I think you're onto something a little stronger here.
When you crop it this way, the bridge is definitely the subject. And when it's cropped the way it is in the original version, the waves compete as the subject.
Yeah.
Like the bridge becomes the background. So it just really depends as the artist on what you're showcasing, I think.
Yeah, and it's like if you were doing a portrait here in this same spot, same frame, and you had somebody in the left third kind of standing in the foam of the water there, that would be one thing, because then it's like that subject is there and then the bridge is contextual and the water's contextual. But at this point, the eyes keep wanting to go to the bridge because that's like the feature. But they're also distracted by this beautiful water and like the foam. And it's like there's a lot of visual appeal, but if you're really wanting people to see the bridge, you kind of have to lead them to it a little more directly, I think. And so,
yeah. Good suggestions, and David, thanks for pointing out how important straightening and cropping is. One other bit that I want to point out is, Sue, it looks like you did some editing to bring the sky out a little bit more, which is good, but some of that has caught onto this top part of the bridge, and so we've got this unnaturally dark top to that tower, and you want to watch out for that.
Yeah.
You can use a range mask to kind of limit that, but otherwise, nice. All right. Thanks, Sue. We're going to move on. We've got Roger Hunt, who, again, if you're a pen member, you've been in the community. I love how kind of people support each other, and sometimes people go through little stretches where they're feeling a little uninspired, or maybe they excel at a certain type of photography, bird photography, Roger, and you want to branch out and try other things. And pen community is a safe place to share some of your other work and get feedback on it, which I've just been following along as Roger's been talking about some of that, and I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's so mysterious.
Say that, Tonya?
I said it's so mysterious, especially in this black and white.
It is mysterious. It is. There's a lot of elements that are mysterious and that I like, and there's some really cool texture in the rocks. I'm not crazy about what's happening in the foreground. It feels a little unnatural to me. I don't know if either of you have an opinion about that.
That's a good observation. I mean, number one, I think if you paint in just like darken the foreground a little bit, I think it does seem almost like a little bit blown out in context with everything else. It's because it's tough because like I really love everything else that's going on. You just want to make sure that everything around it is. That's getting a little better for me. You know, I don't really know what the actual atmosphere was like here. I mean, it looks like it was foggy, and so
I'm scrolling back through our pen group because he posted this and asked for advice, and it does not have fog in the foreground originally. And I prefer it without the fog, so I think he can just take it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. So there wasn't a bunch of pen members that were like, this would look much better if you put fog in the foreground, were there?
No, I think there were. Sorry.
Pen members, come on, you're letting me down. Who suggested that? I mean, no, I could see the idea.
He says it's a composite. It's a composite. So there we go.
Okay.
Oh, is he here? Okay. Yeah, I pulled it up, and I do think, I mean, I understand the thought process of wanting the fog, but I'm looking at the original on Facebook, and I like the original. It just there's more contrast because of it, and I think that the fog in the background has more impact without the fog that he added. So
that's an interesting. Yeah, that's a good observation.
I'd also have to say, and maybe this is just my limited Photoshop expertise, I would also say that I think it's very difficult to do very good looking fog digitally.
Yeah.
I think it's challenging.
It is.
The best way I have found is to get an overlay. And then this is coming back to blending modes, which I use all the time, which is why I'm doing the tutorials about them. But if you get a white fog on a black background, you can use the screen blending mode, and then that can give you a pretty good looking fog. So
yeah, okay, that's cool.
Okay. Cool. All right. Anything else we want to say about this? I mean, I think there's some really interesting elements. I love the vines climbing up the old stone. It's not, I didn't notice it at first, but we have a tombstone here that in some ways kind of mirrors the shape of this opening. And then we have all of these tombstones off here, off to the right. So I feel like there are some other elements to this that could be interesting to explore.
Yeah.
Either reshooting or, with some editing to highlight.
I'll say this. I think it's really close. I think it just needs to get over the finish line, because I could see this like hanging on the wall and being a really cool piece that's people say, whoa, what is that? Or where was that? So you have something with great visual appeal. It's just bringing it home. And sometimes that's a lot of opinions from us and from other pen members and you figuring it out, but just keep working it, because I think you're so close to something really, really great here.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Thank you, Roger. We're going to move on. Pam Case Pam, you've got two, and in the interest of time, I think I want to talk about this one.
Ooh, nice.
This shot. This is from our Southwest workshop, this little spot to where we have the ability to make sand fall for a few moments and take a picture.
I was going to say, how is sand just falling?
It's just falling. Don't ask too many questions. It makes for a good picture.
It's a sand river.
It does.
I may have furiously shoveled it up there a minute ago.
Good job. I love it.
Yeah. I think this is a nice shot. I wonder though if we need as much up above. What if we come down a little bit? Thinking about rule of thirds. I'm watching this corner to kind of start where that slopes in. What do we think?
Yeah, I think that helps it. You could probably even come in a little bit from the right. I think that part just gets a little bit too dominating, and
look, we could even think about using this kind of leading slope to bring us in a little bit tighter.
I think that hones in on, again, the subject is in this one is clearly the sand falling, and so but you want to see the texture and you want to see the context of where you were, but it's always about like looking at it and framing it properly.
Yeah.
I would like to see
if sharp enough. I can't. It's hard to tell on my screen.
It is sharp, yes. But I think it's sharpest right around where the sand is falling, and so we have a little bit of out of focus foreground that I think is drawing you away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, David.
No, it's fine. I was kind of noticing that as well. Yeah, play around.
Come in.
Yeah, just play around with the crop, and maybe that's a little much. I don't know. It seems like that it gets a little thin on the bottom right.
Yep.
Yeah.
But this is again what I was trying to say earlier is just like you really got to work those crops to get, because you're filling a rectangle with shapes and lines and colors, and its proportions really matter of what's where but I kind of wonder if like a vignette or something where if you can paint in to where the eyes are really drawn to that falling sand, because there's some brighter spots than that. And so my eyes kind of keep going back to the right and then up. And then, I feel like there's a way to really play with the light in this.
Yep. So it would be great to go watch David McKay's kind of painting with light series. And I think that's a great suggestion of working this so that you are controlling the light so that your viewer's eye goes instantly to the sandfall. It's really, really clear.
Yeah.
Yep. And Pam's asking specifically in chat, is it sharp enough? I think so, but this is a good lesson for anybody going out there. If you're including a lot of foreground, I think you need to have a really compelling reason for it to not be in focus. And this shot I don't have any of your metadata up here, Pam. I'm not sure how you voided all that out, but I would love to see a little bit more aperture and or the focus to be a little bit closer over here so that we don't have quite this out of focus softness in the foreground. Cool. All right. Thanks.
Great shot, man.
Now, Teresa has this shot.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
This has beautiful light.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. She sent me a DNG, so she's done some edits to it. I think she's edited this some already, but I want to make it just a teeny bit brighter and a little warmer.
Yes.
I don't know, actually. Didn't like how it kind of responded. Some parts of it. So this is where I'd like to paint in a little bit warmer light where there is light.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool.
One thing catching my eye, two buildings that I think they're not part of the story really. The story to me feels like wild coastline, and I'm just going to make those. I'm just going to make the coastline a little bit wilder. I'm just gonna get that out of there somewhere. And again, Photoshop would be a lot better, but for time, we're going to do that.
Toby, would you pull? I wonder if you would pull up a gradient like from the bottom left and kind of like work that greenery a little bit. I've been doing this a lot lately in my photos. Is like taking an area where the white balance on your camera is always looking at one section or another. Like if the light's doing something here, and then it's doing something different over here, your camera doesn't know how to like do both, so it's going to commit to one or the other. And so if you have something in shadow, you have to kind of take that and go work those colors and that exposure a little differently, and it'll bring everything into like the same spectrum of color, if that makes sense. So like I love all that stuff that's going on there, and typically I wouldn't want to see that much greenery or stuff in the foreground, but it kind of serves it really well. So you really just want to make sure that the color is right, the light is right, and then like maybe it's a matter of painting in some highlights to really. You don't want that to fall so much in the shadow that like literally half of the photo is not. You're not serving half of the photo properly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. You're trying to. So what's happening basically is the shade is a much cooler temperature, and just warming it up a bit. I mean, I was able to move that slider much warmer, and I feel like that's a little bit more of a balanced approach now.
And you can fine tune it, but it does balance it, because when you're standing there, your eyes don't have one white balance. They do, but they don't commit to, oh, everything looks cool all the time. They see warmth here, and then they look down. It just, sometimes you just want to bring it all together, and I think that helped a lot. So
yeah. I will say, just as we just cautioned Pam, though, just this is getting pretty soft down here in this corner, and I'd love to see it in a little bit more detail. I'm not really willing to crop much out, because then we're going to lose this kind of lovely green frame that we're having. But in shooting, I would think a little bit more depth of field, focusing a little bit closer, would benefit a shot like this. But the light, Teresa says the light was where they were chasing the light. Yeah. And good job. You caught it. Very nice. Okay. Sean gave us a raw and then his edited JPEG.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, do that one more time.
Let's sure. Raw JPEG. What hold on now.
Yeah.
The focus I'm wondering if he focus stacked. Let's see. They are the same number.
Okay.
But I mean, geez, how did you go from having out of focus? I mean, only
because when you did that, I was like, oh, I saw that wrong. And then when you went back,
me too. I was wondering what was going on.
I don't know if Sean is in our chat. I haven't seen his name pop up, but yes, I am curious to know if you did some focus stacking, which I started playing with a little bit more, and I really like. Photoshop has tools to do that, but we were doing a Lightroom class during this last Glacier workshop, and I demonstrated it, and Photoshop really kind of it wasn't great. And when I got home, I took the same images and put them through Helicon, which is a dedicated focus stacking software, and gorgeous, beautiful. Yeah, Tonya, have you used that for macro work much?
I have used it for macro work, but then I decided that focus stacking wasn't really my thing. Like, and I love some macro images that have been focus stacked, and I think it is its own art form, but it didn't feel like my style.
Yeah.
And I just felt like staying true to that. I really love the depth of field that you get in macro, and sometimes it comes out really painterly, and that felt more like me. So
yeah, gotcha. Okay. Yeah. All right. Brian's thinking it's a composite. I mean, I think it is focus stacked / composite. So
I mean, it's gotta be. Yes. That's a tremendous amount of
yeah.
There's something.
All right. Well, let's talk about this for a moment here.
Let's talk about the editing at least. I mean, the shooting method is interesting, but the editing, finishing this out.
No. Going from, I almost prefer some of the colors we have in the original to here. There's a little,
does it feel
almost a blue. What'd you say, Tonya?
I was wondering if it was green. I felt like the other one had magenta.
Yeah, I felt like it has a little too much of a green cast going on.
And I thought a little bit of blue too.
Yeah.
So we come over here a little bit, and it's also could be the time of day this was shot seems very interesting. It doesn't seem like there is direct light anywhere, which makes me think that this might be just before or just after sunrise.
I'll tell you this. One thing I play around with a lot in these types of shots where there's greenery, because greens are really tricky for a lot of our cameras to. It's not necessarily that they don't render it properly, but a lot of times green doesn't look pleasing along with some of the other colors of nature. So I will go into my individual sliders, color sliders, and play around with the hue of the green. And a lot of times it's playing around with the hue of the yellow that changes the green more than the actual green slider. Yeah. But if you play around with that stuff a little bit, just those individual color sliders, and it's usually not about making wide swings. It's about micro adjustments. you can really fine tune that color and get it to where your greens are vibing with your yellows in a really beautiful way. And because your eyes see this stuff and you're like, these are great, they're sunflowers, they're beautiful, but the photo doesn't always render that. Does that make sense? Like, it doesn't always.
Yeah.
Something's, it almost looks like a bad, like a badly printed photo or something.
Did you guys shoot film?
Some. A little bit.
But maybe not for art purposes. I remember working in a film lab and people would buy certain films just for the green. Like Fuji was known for their green.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
And so I think green has always caused issues.
I struggle with it when I do portraiture, like in the where there's green trees in the background or something. I always struggle with it. So I'll sometimes go in and mess with the luminance of it, the saturation. It's a fine tuning thing, but it really can make the whole photo feel right on the colors.
Yeah, I think it's a great suggestion to come in here and work this a little bit. The other thing that's happening here is I think we have some trees at the edge of the field that are, this is, again, it's just something different, and it's pulling me away.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see that go away. We can't necessarily just kind of crop it out, because then I think we're changing the balance of this image. But this can serve as a good example of there are a lot of individual elements here that I think are very interesting. I mean, you could argue that a shot, something like, I don't know, something that's ridiculous, but something that is really just kind of wall to wall repeating sunflowers, very kind of the same. It's all of the same. When we come out here, we've got these guys down in front that are interesting, but there's enough space between and around them that I'm then left a little like not sure what to do.
Yeah. That's a very good observation.
Yeah. And the other thing,
really,
go ahead, Tonya.
When you're shooting, as an artist, you have to decide, what do I want my subject to be, or the focal point, and then what am I going to do composition-wise to get people to look at that. And so stuff like this is tricky, because if the artist hasn't defined a focal point, the rest of us struggle. And repeating patterns just don't lend themselves to a strong focal point.
Yeah. Unless that is the subject of itself, I think I would say,
Yeah.
And I mean, this guy down here, because it's kind of the biggest and obviously was the focus in the single shot. It's the one that's most in focus. I want this story to be about it kind of standing apart from the others. So then I don't want it to be intersecting over here. And then I don't want to see this one over here, which is kind of makes me feel like this one isn't that special. There's another one off by itself, kind of marching out of the field.
That's what I'm struggling with it because it's like, it's a beautiful image. I mean, sunflowers are beautiful, and it's seeing them in this array is gorgeous. But imagine if every one of these sunflowers was replaced with just a human face, but everybody was kind of dressed the same. Then all of a sudden it's like there's not one person I'm supposed to look at. It's just they're kind of scattered about. So there's nothing else that draws your attention to it. So you kind of get lost in it's beautiful. And I'm being a little philosophical, but I just think that then you have to go to like what you were talking about, Toby, maybe like cropping it to this panoramic thing of just this like stream of sunflowers. You have to just figure out like what is going to make this the most visually interesting thing, because you got a great shot. However, if it was focus stacked or not, I don't know. This is a great shot. It's just, what am I saying with this? And so,
I love the idea of thinking of them as people all dressed the same.
I don't know. It just kind of came to mind. I was like, if this was like a bunch of people in business suits or something, like it would. I'm not saying it wouldn't work, but it would. And then you had like the big one was like somebody wearing something totally like a red dress or something. Then it's like, wow, it brings all this context, and then this one thing that really stands out. But in this case, it's like the thing that's supposed to stand out looks like all the other things, just bigger. And again, I'm being philosophical, but there's definitely something to work with here. It's just
Yep.
figuring it out.
There's lots to work with here. Yep,
Yes.
I agree. And also I think getting back to this point and thinking about how you can kind of create a story similar to what David Carr is saying, which I think is a great idea. Cool. Thank you, Sean. All right, we're going to finish up with Deb's Dramatic Alaska. Her title, not mine, but it is fairly dramatic. I don't want to kind of repeat ourselves, but I'm going to, and you guys can tell me. You two can tell me whether you think. Let's be even more extreme than that. What do we think?
Yep.
Is this
Come down here.
color, right?
It is color. Yes.
Huh.
There's not a lot. You want me to switch to black and white to see a difference?
Or I think this could be cool split tones somehow, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it clearly lends itself toward black and white since I had a hard time telling, but
yeah, it's very monochromatic. Even if there is color, it's like black, white, and blue. It's not. There's nothing, which I kind of like. It gives you that sense of coldness, and yeah, I mean, it's actually very beautiful with these mountains and this like fog laying down low on them, then some water and reflection. I mean, you have a lot of really cool visual appeal here. I think cropping it like that was a great choice.
Yeah.
I didn't need to see so much of the clouds or much more of the water.
Yeah. I agree. My thinking there was that after a certain point, nothing changed about the clouds, and so we didn't need to show more to tell that story. And now I've just kind of brightened up your reflection a little bit, and then went the Steve way of decreasing the texture and clarity in the sky to kind of soften the clouds, maybe even bring dehaze down a bit. So actually hazing up the clouds, maybe, that gives them a little bit of a softer texture, which can be a nice contrast against the tones, or the sharper, harder tones of these mountains.
One other thing that I think could send this photo over the edge would be, and it would be a Photoshop thing, but you can actually go in and isolate the water and add a blur to it, like a motion blur or some sort of blur, and it can really like add this striking element to that lower third of the image. I've done that in some shots, and I know that's not what you saw, but like, yeah, see what that did? Just a. Now that may not be someone's taste, but there's sometimes you can kind of like take it to this third dimension of, I was standing here watching this, but then now it looks like, was I moving? Was the water moving? I don't know. I just think it's something worth playing around with.
Is the center warm in the color version, or is that are my eyes just like playing tricks on me? Like right where the water and the land hit.
I see what you're saying.
I wouldn't necessarily call it warm. I do see Brian asking about maybe warming it up a little bit.
I almost want that area, if you keep it color, to just to have the contrasting color of the blue and the orange. Just
yeah.
But I only kind of want it there, right in the center. But
only there in the center.
That could be just like a total personal preference, and that is not a right or wrong. So I actually meant like the center, but all the way across the water line.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
So kind of down in this area.
Well, I almost wanted a little more in the water. Maybe this is weird.
No, it's okay.
No, I think there is something there of you've got the sunlight filtering through and warming the fog and the clouds down in the valleys.
Yeah.
I think there is something to work with there. I temporarily though went even more blue for a moment, and it can work that way too.
Yeah, it really can.
Yeah, I do like that. All right.
Both directions. So it's personal preference. Yeah, personal preference. All right.
Oh,
cool. Thank you, Deb. We're going to come back to all of us so we can sit back now and just talking to. I went to a massage therapist the other day, and I was like, when I'm on tour, I have decent posture because I'm out doing stuff. But then at home, I'm like editing like this. So sit down. Okay. Hey, let's talk for a few moments as we're starting to wrap this show up about some family vacation photos tips. If either of you want to go first, let me know. But I can jump in with my do it early on so people don't look so sunburned.
There you go. That's a good one.
Actually, I say that as I'm looking a little.
Raccoon lines.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're terrible.
Yes. Seriously, though, I think it's a great idea. My big tip is don't wait until the last evening. One, because people get sunburned. Two, because you never know what weather's going to do, and you might end up having to take wonderful family vacation photos inside. So this is talking about the kind of the more formal, hey, we want a nice picture of everybody who's been here.
Right.
And maybe, the smaller groups of families, like my mom with my kids, my mom with my brother's kids, all the grandkids together. So those a little bit more formal ones. Yeah. I think it's important not to wait to the very last night, which is a good rule of thumb a lot of the times.
I think so.
And that also helps with sunburn, hopefully. Although if the vacation's long enough, maybe it started to fade by that time. But also knowing how in Lightroom and Photoshop to battle back a little bit of sunburn, just decreasing the red, shifting as we were just doing with Sean's, individual color channels and Sean's sunflower pictures, doing that same thing to try to reduce the redness a little bit in faces as well.
Yeah, you can totally do that.
Yeah. David Carr, you were just at a beach vacation with your extended family, fairly large number. How did you took some beautiful family photos from there. Thank you. You got any tips or tricks for us?
Yeah, well, so the biggest factor for me in those was the time of day that we shot them. It was actually pretty late in the day, and some of my best shots that I posted, it was getting dark. I mean, it was actually getting uncomfortably these are just bonus because these probably aren't going to be good. But the light was actually beautiful. It was like golden and it was, the sun had already set, but it was just this gorgeous cast of light. I had to up my exposure a little bit. I probably brightened some of them in Lightroom, but you can do that. And so you're still taking advantage of, even though it's not a lot of light, the quality of that minimal light is actually still really beautiful, and what it's doing to people's faces. I did most of our group photos with our backs to the sun because I wanted to see kind of this backlit look, and I didn't want everybody squinting because the sun was still kind of, I think it was up at the time that we were shooting some of those. It was a little hazy, but then I was like, well, I'm going to experiment and turn the other way and do some of these other shots with their faces being lit by what was left of the sun. But light is everything in those kind of photos. And besides, nobody wants to be out there at 2:00 in the afternoon on a beach, especially doing family photos, just miserable. And the other thing is you have to act kind of quickly, even if you don't have a ton of little kids, which we have quite a few small kids. People just usually there are a few grumpy people in the crowd that don't really want to stand there very long. So just appease them by take command and say everybody give me 10 seconds of your undivided attention. I'm going to fire off 10 shots and then we'll have them. We'll have it, and also tell people I just really recommend, I don't want to say lower your expectations, but if you do have little kids, you're probably not going to have everybody looking at the camera smiling, and you have to be okay with that. Unless you know how in Photoshop, how to swap heads and all that, which is, I should do a tutorial on that. Maybe I will, but, yeah, it's not always easy, but I'm telling you right now, if whatever the time of day is that people are going to be the most comfortable and they're not squinting and in turn, you're a little more comfortable, you're going to come up with better photos.
Yeah. So I one of the things I think that I want to kind of key in on there, that you are giving them directions. You're asking them for their time. So you switch back, even though this is your family and everybody's friends and friendly. You're kind of switching back to that professional photographer role
Yeah.
so that it's efficient and it happens and you get it done.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing I think is key in any group shot kind of setting, especially when there are kids involved, is tell the adults and the parents, like, I need a couple of shots where all of you are just looking at me and smiling regardless of what your kid is doing. Just give me that.
Huge.
Because it's what we can forgive a 2-year-old looking off and picking their nose or whatever, but if dad is going like this over here, like, it just doesn't look good. So you at least want to get the ones who can comprehend being still and giving you their undivided attention. You want to give them that direction, and then it's kind of like crossing your fingers that you'll get enough of the younger people doing that. And again, I mean, there are many ways to swap, even just eyes. Somebody's blinking. If 20 people, someone's bound to be blinking in one of the shots. And I will do a tutorial on that, because it's actually not that difficult if you have Photoshop to just do a quick eye swap. And then all of a sudden, cousin Tina, who's been like this, is like this. And it's like, great. So.
Yeah. Tonya, how about you? And first, I want to share. This is an older post of yours, but I love this as kind of an idea of family vacations don't have to be just a picture of everybody. This is such a cool photo.
I mean, that's not photoshopped.
That's not at all.
That's amazing. I can't believe I'm going to go on vacation with you. That's you get to see stuff like that. Very cool.
Listen, if you go on vacation with me, my kids will catch you just about anything in the ocean, guaranteed. Not a whale, but
very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So, what do you have some other tips for us?
Well, I think first of all, I am so guilty of waiting to the last day to take photos, and that is so key. I had a girlfriend who would go on vacation, and we both loved getting family photos done on the beach. And every year we were like, we are not waiting till the last day. And then on the last day, we were like, why did we do that? And so I do think that's really super important. And also shade, which is super hard on the beach. So you're right. When you're shooting on the beach, you don't have shade. So unless it's cloudy, which then that's the day to do it. Go run out on the beach while it's cloudy.
Yeah.
But then if you're on the beach and you need the sun to be mostly set, you have a window of this. So where's my? So you have to have everybody on board. Like, we're going to have maybe 20 minutes of really good light. Everybody pay attention, and we're going to get this done. But if you're anywhere else, always go to shade. You don't want people squinting, because that's really hard, like, to fix.
Yeah.
You can fix some other things like the sunburn or the tan lines, but squinting is terrible to fix. And so are really harsh shadows coming across the face. Yeah. So it's not enough to just have a little shade. If you have light dappling coming through, that's almost worse.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But so always shade. And if you're doing groupings, always start with the youngest kids first. Get them done.
Yeah.
Because they maybe give you 5 shots. It's over.
Right.
So, but I think your point too was right about, like, adults, don't worry about the kids.
Yeah.
We want you to look good. The kids are cute, however.
Yeah, that's right. At least give me a few shots where you're not, like, worried about what the kids are doing. Just, and then I'm good.
And also, if you are, like, maybe amateurish, or you're taking this of your own family, always make the mom look good. Thank you. She's probably gonna care more than you.
That's great advice.
Good point.
I will say this too, if I can add just real quick,
You bet.
the wardrobe. So I'm fortunate because my cousins that we go to the beach with every year, they've always got a plan for wardrobe. Like, so this year it was pastels. They were like, we're all going to wear pastels, and actually it worked really well. And I realized how the power of, like, wearing the right clothing at the photo shoot. The beach is filled with pastels. The sand is kind of this beigey, it's kind of a pastel in its own. The water kind of tends to be that way. The sky tends to be that way at night. So when they're wearing colors that accent all that, I just loved the way the photos look. so much more than like I saw a family shooting all with like black shirts and khaki pants, and I just thought, unless they're going black and white with those, I don't think that's going to look very good. Or bright white shirts, unless you're going black and white. I mean, it just, so that's stuff. I mean, not to overthink this, but like all those little things play into it, and
sure,
it just makes for more beautiful photos.
I just saw where it's trending in weddings that you, in the invitation, ask guests to all come in a color palette.
Really?
And how much better all of the photos look. Like one woman just said, please come dressed in blues, whites, and tans. And everybody did. And the photos were impressive. Because
that's amazing.
Everybody, and obviously like whole ranges of blues and tans and browns, but they still were, you didn't have that one person in like bubblegum pink, you know?
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, that's kind of brilliant. I like
That's kind of awesome. Yeah.
And then kudos to your family and friends if they all play along. Like, that's amazing.
That's really cool.
That is cool. Yeah. And I'll just say this about waiting to the last moment. I mean, it's tough. We're on vacation too. We're not there to be the professional photographer necessarily. So, you know, we're trying to have a good time in the evening, maybe a few drinks. And so things happen. But yeah, if you come in saying, hey, let's look at the weather. We've got this cloudy day coming up. Let's plan for that day and have a backup of like the next day, you know, no matter what, or something like that. So yeah. Cool.
And also
John
no
says,
pressure, because I said also sometimes no pressure, because my last vacation, this was it. Like, I didn't even pack the camera.
Well, good for you. It's good to leave that thing at home at sometimes, you know.
It is. Yeah, it's true. I don't mean to make anybody feel bad, but for us, this was, when I just was thinking about this because it was the first time that we had been back together with my mom in 18 months. And so my son has grown about 18 inches in those 18 months. And so it was, it was fun to document this. Plus my brother with his youngest, who's a year old. Pen members, I'll probably share with you all the Photoshop job that I had to do, because exactly the 1-year-old was not interested in holding still at all. It was hilarious. He had no pants on. So don't worry about pastels, just no pants. And he's running in and out of the pictures. And I'll say this, for any cameras now that offer kind of the intervalometer built in, I've started doing this more and more for group photos, because set it on the 1 second, dial it in, 1 second every second shot, and then go walk over to the group and say, everybody smile for a few seconds. And then you can be in it. You can get several shots, so you'll probably avoid the blinking. And there's also then kind of funny outtakes, because then you can say, everybody do something goofy. And those looks that you get as people are like registering what you just asked them to do, and then slowly start to do something goofy. And you got the person who responds instantly, and then you got the person that never goes goofy and it just stays, like this the whole time. It's just it's all fun. So that's kind of a quick way to get a series of shots that are going to give you a lot to work with. Down the road. Yeah.
Those are good suggestions.
So yeah. Okay. Hey, I think we're going to wrap up there. Is there anything else that I said we're going to talk about? Oh, all cameras are delayed. I mentioned that in the headline for this show. Nothing official, but it's just clear that with the electronics shortage that's coming out of COVID and the pandemic, that there are huge delays across the board. We talked about this a few shows ago with a lot of different lenses being back ordered, but now I'm starting to hear it that a lot of cameras are not going to be announced when the manufacturer hoped that they would, because they know there's no way they can actually get enough units to start shipping to make any sense. And so this is gonna impact through the fall and maybe even longer. So I'm definitely feeling that. I actually ordered a lens the other day. I sold a couple, which was really great, but ordered one and it's back ordered. And and then I'm trying to find like a new stereo for my car. Can't find them anywhere. Like they're literally like everything's like not in stock. It's just crazy. So yeah.
I ran into that because I also work in maintenance. Flooring, I can't get flooring in. Some paints I can't get in.
Wow. Really?
It's ridiculous.
It's even hit that market.
Wow. And just because I want to chime in now, I went to REI looking for a new pair of waterproof shoes, and stock of those is incredibly low because most of them are European manufacturers and or at least European companies, probably still with Asia manufacturing, and all of those supply chains have been hit too.
Gosh.
So wow.
It's real.
All right. So you know what though? Honestly, I said this in a little paddleboard post. What you got right now is fine. Use that. Get outside. Experiment with it, and you should
Lost
be.
In, we never do that.
That's right.
We just skim the surface with our stuff.
That's
really.
true. That's true.
Right. And we didn't put Steve to sleep, and he hasn't fired himself yet. So that's good, Steve Pressman.
But is he using Photoshop?
No, definitely not. I can answer that for him.
Come back next time, Steve.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll get you there. We'll get you there slowly. Tonya, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Really appreciate it. I know you got lots going on, so appreciate any time that you can give us. Your voice is awesome. You can follow Tonya at tonyawilhelm.artist. And from there, I strongly encourage you to go follow those other Instagrams because you are posting beautiful work. Go back and find that whale photo and give that a like because that's such a cool shot. So thank you.
Thank you.
And David Carr, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate you taking a break from the chicken coop building and all the photography you're doing.
Gladly.
You did your South Dakota shots, the Badlands, that light that you have, and then the reflection shot, and that the baby goats. I saw that. Or the gorgeous stuff.
Thank you so much. I really, really had a great time on that trip, and I feel like I've been launching into this new level of editing that I'm excited to share with people because I'm taking the same shots that they're taking.
It's phenomenal.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been fun to learn some new things and try some new things, and that means a lot. Thank you.
Cool. I'm looking forward to what you're sharing about that because I feel like my photography has been fairly even in the last couple of years, and I'm starting to get a little frustrated, and I think a lot of my issue is in my editing. I think I need to work at how I edit a little bit more. So
yeah, well, I think it's where a lot of us are taking the same quality of shot in the camera, and then it's just what are you going to do with it when it's finished? And there are different opinions on how far you should take editing. I know there are a lot of some people say, well, that's not photography if you did this. I don't really care as long as it looks cool when it's done. So I'm happy to share some of those things and hopefully inspire people to take their images all the way across the finish line.
Cool. All right. We're looking forward to it. All right. In chat room, thank you again, not just Steve, but everybody who hung out with us. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you haven't already, give this show a thumbs up. That's a nice way to thank us for our time. And of course, go follow the Instagrams of my two co-hosts. All right, everybody. We'll be back next week. I'm excited that we'll have 2 shows in a row before there is a little break again because actually, I'm not sure there will be. I think that there's going to be a nice long run of these shows again because I don't have weekday travel for at least a little while. Yeah. So something to look forward to.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.